The Bitcoin Group, the American original. For over the last 10 years, the sharpest Satoshis, the best Bitcoins, the hardest cryptocurrency talk. We'd like to welcome our panelists, Victoria Jones from Satoshi's Page,
Hey, hey, good evening, everyone.
Ben Ark from LN Bits,
Hello all, very sticky evening in Wales, so welcome all.
and I'm Thomas Hunt from the World Crypto Network. Moving on to issue one. Issue 1. Quant Fund says Bitcoin is near a major inflection point as rare on-chain signals align. Hyperion's Demesis Chris Sullivan said 4 historically reliable indicators have aligned, leaving Bitcoin one move away from a major turning point. Unfortunately, he says that move will be to $48,000, below $50,000. Extreme maximum pain. Meanwhile, the media is reporting story after story saying that Bitcoin has dropped 50%, not knowing the horrible truth that we've dropped 70, 80, and as much as 90% in the past. The price continues to drop with a particularly alarming drop from 61 to 58 in a mere matter of minutes or hours. The Bitcoin price is crazy and crazy down. Victoria Jones, what do you think about the prediction, 48K, and the price of Bitcoin?
Well, in terms of the exact price, I mean, that's always, this is the third time I've seen this cycle now. And whenever we get to the stage where we're getting towards the bottom, everyone's completely depressed. They think it's never going to recover. And they always predict that it's going to be further down than it actually ends up. I mean, I saw one video this last week where someone was predicting that we were heading down to 3K again, which is just laughable. There is a limit to how far down Bitcoin can go before it starts affecting, the miners and how they pay for their electricity. So there will be a floor at some stage. I think the problem we've got this cycle is because Bitcoin is now so financialized with the rest of the financial system, as much as it has the potential to cause the price to rise exponentially, it's also got the potential to push the price down exponentially as well. Typically in the past, when Bitcoin dropped, it wouldn't go lower than the previous all-time high, and of course the previous all-time high was around 60K, so of course a lot of people would be assuming that that's the floor. But because of all the financial engineering that we're dealing with now, we've got a potential to go beyond that. And so yeah, it's really tricky for people who were relying on that. It's going to be tricky. So I think it's hard to predict the price, but I do think it's going lower.
We've got a crypto president, and yet still the so-called Crypto Clarity Act is horribly stalled. We've seen recently this group that Christian groups are now acting against the Clarity Act, saying that Bitcoin enables human trafficking. We all know what enables human trafficking. It's money, it's dollar bills. But yes, Native Americans, Christians are now against the bill. The blockchain people as well want to have a protection for people that write mixing code, and that's particularly what they're upset about with the trafficking. Additionally, as Victoria was saying, the headlines are horrible. There's an outline going out, a headline that says, Goldman Sachs says Bitcoin to 5K, dead in 5 years. So they're really trying to bury you. They are bringing out the zero. People are saying Bitcoin to zero. We haven't heard that in a long time. And as Victoria said, the miners are below cost, which is horrifying. Of course, they made lots of sells in the last year, according to what we understand from on-chain metrics and so forth. But currently, if you're mining underwater. We broke the rainbow chart, one of the oldest charts in Bitcoin history. It was always a little silly, but the power law, you could always put the line there. We're below that line. We're out of the purple. We're falling out of the rainbow. This has happened twice before, though. So just like with Michael Saylor selling Bitcoin, everyone forgets the past. We've dropped out of the rainbow chart twice before. We've had this 70%, 90% crashes before. We always come back. I agree with Victoria, though, when you're in it, when you've lost a fortune and everything is on fire, it doesn't matter that it came back 2 or 3 times before. I remember the despair last time, and I remember everyone saying, oh, it always comes back, it'll be just fine. And I felt the despair. And I think the higher you go up this ladder, the more despair you might get. the more curses of, I did the wrong timing, I'm the dumbest person in the world. But I think there's lots of dumb people like you, like me. And I think we all blew it. I don't know of anybody that plays these things right. And every time you try to change it or fix it, you end up making it worse. So I don't know what the right thing is to do. No financial advice. But even though we broke the power law, even though we broke the rainbow chart, they also say the pattern goes crazy up from here. They have that whole whoop. And like Victoria said, we've done it before. Maybe we could do it again. Ben, Ark, what do you think about the price of Bitcoin?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of not surprising. We've been here a while and we've done this a few times, and it's the same pattern. You have like the perfect FOMO news cycle of whatever, Bukele's making El Salvador Bitcoin standard. It's going to be the first of many countries, and you have Trump's the new Bitcoin president, and then you have all these new people come in, pushes the price up, and then it's kind of like it's only temporary because it's kind of superficial, you just have this new flood of interest, which then starts to drop off. Then when it starts going down, and they start jumping ship, but then you kind of increase the bedrock of Bitcoiners every time that happens. And in the last, whenever you hear someone say, well, it's never going to go under 100K again, it will go under 100K. Whenever it's never going to go under 20K, it's never going to go under 10K, and it does. And the prediction I got is 40K is probably the floor. And we've said it every bear market. We do the same kind of behavior where you have all these articles of people predicting the bottom price. And actually, when we've bottomed is when people stop predicting how low it will go. They just stop talking about it. No one mentions no one speculates on how low it's going to go. They just assume it's going to go lower. And there's blood in the streets. Everyone's miserable. No one even mentions the price. And that's usually when we're at the bottom. And I think that's probably around 40K. I think people who start buying up at 40 to 45K, that's very wise. And then, if you ever get to that point again where it breaks some big number, like 100 grand, 200 grand, whatever, and then someone says, oh, well, it's never going to go under this number again, that's probably when you need to sell. But it's the same kind of behavior with just more players and more people. And then you just have to look back at the technology. So I work with Bitcoin every day. I pay people in Bitcoin. It's great. And then I also have to do stuff in fiat, and we have some fiat stuff in LM Bits, and I pay people in fiat, and it sucks. It's full of friction. It doesn't make sense in this modern world. Bitcoin makes sense. It's so easy to use, and it actually using it and using the technology for full payments, it makes me extremely bullish on the technology. And then okay, we lose a Michael Saylor, but then we gain a bunch of countries who want to start bypassing USD as their medium of exchange. And I think that'll be probably the next big pump, would be based on, the BRICS and whoever else ending up using Bitcoin, because none of them trust each other. The USD hegemony is going to go away, and it's no longer going to be the next reserve currency. And, no one else is going to want to use anyone else's currency as a world reserve currency. So countries will, as we've started to see, will start thinking about using Bitcoin because it just makes sense. And then in a whole bunch of other realms, it just makes sense. And actually in Wall Street, they like Bitcoin. They like volatile prices because that's where they can make money on trades. So they more and more that, Bitcoin is endearing them, and they're not going to go away. So yeah, you have the FOMO, the perfect storm of news. It goes up. We get really high highs. Everyone says it's never going to go under a certain number again. It goes under that number. We have a bear market because of the halving. We always have the halving bear market, which we've got a little bit more time to kind of weather out. And during that time, it's going to be slow. It's going to be boring. It's going to be ugly. And we're going to get to 40K and bumble around at 40K for a while. And then the thing will happen, the AI bubble will pop, and all that junky capital will probably flood into Bitcoin because it actually could fulfill the promises of some of the capital returns, which they want from something like the AI boom. And all that money will start flooding back into Bitcoin. All that interest will start flooding back into Bitcoin. People use it as that apolitical medium of exchange, which no one can control. No trusted third parties needed. It's very powerful. It's a very powerful technology, and more people are getting turned onto it. So I'm not worried. It's just kind of weathering the storm. I think what sucks is when it does that thing where you get the perfect storm of FOMO news and the price shoots up through the roof. There's a whole bunch of Bitcoiners who are like, oh, I could buy a plane and a swimming pool and a house and this and a that and a do-da-da-da. And they start to commit to stuff. Even not if just mentally they start committing to things. I could buy this high, market value thing, or they actually start, going through the process of buying a big thing, and then that's when the price drops. So that's why generally, like, Bitcoiners who've done well off the Bitcoin pumps tend to lose out, because they then get caught up in the idea of the fancy things they can have. But the best, I think, carry on working, keep Bitcoin in your as your savings, let it do its thing, wait a decent chunk of time, and you'll do very well on it. Try not to spend too much of it.
It's quite a strange thing, Ben. No matter how much it goes up, you're always like, I just need 2 times more. I just need 10 times more. If only it was that, then I could sell this much comfortably and still have an investment and this and that. And that's the same thing. You start to get those eyes and you're like, I could get a car, I could get this. But the horrible truth of investing is if you don't sell it right then, you don't get a car. I mean, sometimes, but if you hold on, maybe get 2 cars, or maybe get 3. I don't know.
But then you end up
Awful.
paying all the things you own because they're worth absolute fortunes. When you wait 5-10 years and Bitcoin's at $1 million, and that car you bought was a $1 million car. So it's not worth the regret.
It's hell to live on this thing. It's hell to believe in it and to invest in it, and to see you waited all these years and you got to that point and then you didn't sell and you erase all those years. And I've seen horrible memes and they're like, yeah, back to checking the price every morning again, which we all need to stop. We just need to live good lives and not worry about this. But a couple of stories. Ben was mentioning the AI bubble, or the potential AI bubble, which would be a horrifying thing. Similar to, like we were talking about Saylor, how he's been pumping up the Bitcoin market. I saw some reports today saying that AI growth is the only thing pumping up the American market, and the government has just started to take an interest and is now limiting AI access, which is making our AI go slower, which could bring this whole thing apart. And then there was a fantastic story on Twitter. I wish I had the slides. I didn't pull them. But this gentleman named, I'm going to mess it up, Matsumoto-san, he runs a company called SoftBank, and it's incredible. He made these slides where he talks about how they have a major investment in ARM. They have a major investment in OpenAI, ChatGPT. And he says, and he tries to say, I don't think it worked, that his company went down 10%, 11% after this. But he says that his company, the one that picks these things, is the goose that lays the golden eggs. And he even had a slide showing the inside of the goose, showing the factory of golden eggs. And then he said that he's unretiring, staying in for another 10 years because he thinks his company is going to get artificial super intelligence and sell it to everybody. And if he doesn't, it will be a spectacular explosion. He's had some hits in the past, but he also backed WeWork. So I don't know. And again, if that AI bubble bursts, the whole market sinks.
It does, because there's all these, particularly now when they're starting to float IPOs, and all these pension funds which have to invest in Nasdaq and whatever else, start investing in them, and all the data centers. It's not just OpenAI, Anthropic, and it's all the other companies and other parts of the industry which they impact, like the data centers and the hardware and whatever else. But the prediction is, I think what will happen is that there will be an AI bubble. It will pop, but Trump's terrified of it, because all Trump cares about is the price going up in the stock market. And the only thing which is really performing in the American stock market and doing well is AI currently. But it's all circular financing. They're all just buying each other's shit. And there's no actual business model. And, like, tokens are like a tenth of what they should probably cost. And there's no business model which makes sense. So I think what will happen is that it'll pop, and then OpenAI will probably get bailed out. Anthropic won't, because just Trump holds a grudge, so he'll refuse to bail out Anthropic. But it will be a national security. That will be the card they play. They'll say, well, if you don't bail us out, then the Chinese are going to get the edge on these models, and they have a state-sponsored, models like DeepSeek, whatever. So you have to give us money and keep this thing going, and they will. But it still won't stop the crisis from happening. Maybe it'll slow it down a little bit. But I think it's probably one of the biggest bubbles we've seen in history, is the AI bubble. And it's just all the lies. It's the AI companies lying to the VCs, saying, if you don't invest in us, then you're not going to have any capital in the future, because we're going to replace all jobs. And we're going to have AGI, and the world's going to, and just lying to them, just scaring them into giving them money. And then And then they go on the news and they say it's going to replace and all this and blah blah blah. But there's no business model there. It's just burning through capex, just VC funded capex. It's like $1 trillion or something, which is being wiped out by just building this stuff. And then the actual, you end up in a world where no one can maintain their software because they don't know how it works, and we all become dependent on this stuff. But we're still not going to pay the price which they should actually pay if it was, a profitable company. So yeah, it's pretty sketch. Like I would say, next couple of months, AI bubble pops, and it's going to be pretty bad. It's going to be a market crash, similar to 2008.
And they've created what looks like a virtuous cycle, but it might be a vicious cycle where OpenAI invests in Microsoft and software and data centers, and the data centers buy OpenAI, and OpenAI buys the chip companies, and the chip companies buy data centers, and money's flowing to everyone, and this whole market area.
It's a new thing, and it shouldn't really be allowed. I mean, they've always done it, but the circular financing thing, where Nvidia's like investing in OpenAI and OpenAI buying Nvidia chips, it just pumps. It just. I mean, this is how bubbles happen, and it's quite interesting though, because we have this thing now which we didn't have in 2008. So we have a lot more people on the internet, and I kind of feel that if we had the amount of people on the internet and the amount of YouTubers, whatever else, and people covering stuff, in 2007, people would probably have predicted the 2008 financial crisis online in the same way which they're predicting it was quite niche. There were a few people talking about the AI bubble a few months ago, and now there's a lot of people talking about the AI bubble. It's worth paying attention to.
At a certain point, it seems like we've staked the entire economy on the success of AI, but the success of AI also wipes out all these jobs, which wipes out the economy, especially the personal economy of normal human beings. I think that high-level people, wealthy people, investors, and as well as now, there's even a fear that the way that the administration in America is doling out the AI, that wealthy, rich, influential people might have more access to intelligence than you and might use that to get richer and lazier and whatever. And it's never going to hit the ground floor. The ground floor is the people that are going to get wiped out, the people that currently do small jobs or even first and third year law associates, people that write papers and insurance and any pushing paper, they're all toast. If you push paper, the AI does it better already. And it'll get worse if Matsumoto gets this ASI and so on and so forth, the super intelligence. But let's
it won't happen. We're just all fucking confused over just a Turing machine. That's all it is. It's just good at pretending to be human and anthropomorphized. And it's all right at writing code, and we're all freaking out, but it's not going to AGI is so hard, and it hasn't got I mean, it has the entire internet fed into it, and it still fucks up over simple context things. So it's not. In many ways, it's very, very dumb. With AI, like, you have to continue to spend money on capital expenditure. You have to continue to build data centers. You have to continue doing processing in order to not have like this drift which happens where AI just gets confused and starts hallucinating. So it's not a sustainable industry. No profits to be made. It's pretty screwed. So this is .com. It'll pop. And then it'll come back again. And then humanity would have had some time to think about all these things about job displacement or whatever else.
Well, that would be great if we could also get some security on those models, considering OpenAI was founded to put that security on there originally as a non-profit as well. And again, I'm still having the greatest time with OpenAI, with Claude. Claude has acted like a research team. I created over 5 million words of transcripts from the World Crypto Network and Mad Bitcoins and this show, of course. And the AI is searching it all. It's writing articles. It's making graphs and charts, how many guests were on this show, and so on and so forth. It's been amazing for me. And recently I was able to, I've been working on an e-reader that will read the text aloud, which is a feature that the first two Kindles had, but Amazon killed because the audiobook publishers would worry it would cut into them. So it's really if you give it a corpus of data, I think it can be an incredible tool. But if it's searching the web or something, who knows where the data is coming from? And then also, as Ben, I think the quality of data, it was trained on the web, and then now the web is full of AI stuff. So now if it trains on the web again, it's getting a bunch of its own things. So it's eating its own dog food. It's not as good data as it used to be. Victoria, let's get you back in here. What do you think about the AI bubble and how it relates to Bitcoin?
Yeah, I mean, my dad was actually the manager of a data center in the year 2000. So I kind of saw the AI bubble from behind the scenes. And it was just crazy. I mean, basically, it was based in London, and he had all these American investors coming over, living at large. Because the thing is, when new companies are in vogue, they just get money thrown at them from left, right, and center. It's like they will jump on the latest, greatest good idea, and they think that it's going to go crazy. I mean, for someone who'd kind of worked from the ground up, as a painter decorator, and then worked in the Navy, and had always been very stable. It was just a phenomenon watching how these people handle getting too much money, and that it had all these corporate events. I went to some sort, they'd have an opening of a big data center, and I'd go, and of course it looked very space age, and it was all very exciting, and you had to have all the environmental factors. But of course, a year later, the whole thing went bankrupt. I mean, my brother had just left school, and he was driving around Amsterdam. He was only like 16. Well, he must have been 17 or 18, driving some of these bigwigs around Amsterdam, having a whale of a time. But then a couple of years later, it was all over. And they were bereft because, it's like they'd died and gone to heaven, and then all of a sudden they were back in hell again. It's a real, so even behind the scenes, when you're working in that environment, it's a huge roller coaster. And so having witnessed that, you can just see when people are going crazy. It's like, who was it? Jack Dorsey deciding to get rid of all his staff because he thought that AI could take over. I mean, that's the kind of mentality and psychology that kind of feeds into this. And when you start seeing it on the ground, and you saw it 20 years ago, you just know it's a cycle. It's something to do with human psychology, that they just get crazy when there's nothing kind of grounding them anymore. And it's almost like the universe has to come in and give them a slap, kind of go, what the hell do you think you're doing? And kind of get it back to ground zero. But of course, the amount of suffering that goes on in the background, because it's not just the people who are wasting money on these data centers. People will invest in these businesses because they think that it's going to go well, but they don't realize how this money gets wasted behind the scenes. And then of course they lose it, and people's you've got the local window cleaner who's got a little bit of a pension. He's about 60, waiting to the day that he can retire, and then all of a sudden he's got to work for another 5 years again because his pension's been lost to these idiots. So it's terrible. It really, having seen it from both sides, it's mind-boggling. So yeah, I completely concur with Ben. I think there's definitely an AI bubble on the way. And of course, I mean, there's a lot of speculation that people have been taking money out of Bitcoin in order to invest in SpaceX. I don't necessarily buy into that, because I think we're in a season where Bitcoin tends to go down anyway. But the amount of money it boggles my mind, the amount of money SpaceX has managed to deliver. I mean, given the amount of evidence we have regarding space, and everyone's given Elon Musk $1 trillion to colonate Mars, it's just like, what are we thinking?
Yeah, the valuation, it would mean that SpaceX would have to have like half the world's GDP in order to justify the devaluation. It doesn't make sense.
It's literally insane.
Yeah, it's
but the thing is,
Well, and it didn't hold either. Did you see the stock price? It was at 185 or so, back to 150, 135. All
which
the
is what every
normal people
IPO does.
who made tons of money and were really happy for, I don't know, 24 hours, they're not happy now. And they, they think they're investing long term in SpaceX. This is a hold stock, and it's behaving like the Facebook IPO. It's behaving like a non-hold.
There might be some truth, Victoria, in what you said about the people pulling money out of Bitcoin and into SpaceX, because you have to remember, like a lot of these people who are trading Bitcoin and at high volume too, they're also, they don't care about Bitcoin in the same way that we care about Bitcoin. They're not Bitcoiners, Wall Street bros. So they could have
it's entirely possible, but I suppose the point I'm making is that we're in a season where it tends to go down anyway, so it's just an additional. It's just an additional factor. But certainly,
they've also said people are trying to invest in OpenAI and Anthropic, that there's three major stocks coming down, and all of them are more exciting than Bitcoin.
Yeah, which they are.
The IPO, those IPOs, I think, are going to be probably the thing which triggers the crash, because they have to open the books and people realize how incredibly unprofitable and just make believe their books are and how much money they've just wasted. And no one will have faith in them as companies. And all these other companies which are offering AI services, they're all just reselling OpenAI and Anthropic. They've got their own models. So yeah, and that's thousands of companies out there. So it impacts everybody.
It was impressive to see recently how allegedly Alibaba has been using perhaps 25,000 Claude instances to reverse engineer and steal the Claude prompt. Stuff like that's happening every day. Victoria,
Yeah.
did you have more on this? Or Ben?
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't surprise me, and obviously, I think if the stock market does go down with some kind of AI crash, if people have invested in Bitcoin as a safe haven, that's what they're going to have to draw on. If they suddenly find themselves bankrupt and Bitcoin is all they've got left, it makes perfect sense that Bitcoin could be sold in that situation. So yeah, I think people need to be very careful. I mean, Bitcoin is a volatile asset. The fundamentals are there. I think it has great promise for the future, but we are literally living in a crazy world. And of course, the old adage, the market can remain irrational longer than you can remain solvent. It was ever thus, just play it carefully, guys. We're here to reassure you that Bitcoin is a real thing, but you're up against a whole bunch of crazy and you have to watch out for that.
I think it's actually probably good that people think that Bitcoin could go to zero. Like we always used to think that back in the day. And I think it's much healthier going into, if you're going to invest in Bitcoin where it currently is, to have that in the back of your head. Well, this thing could just implode in on itself, because it could. It's a great technology. I don't think it will happen. I think it's very unlikely, but I think it's healthy to think that way. So I don't think it's a bad thing. People think of it going to zero again.
Yeah.
I definitely
There's
agree
certainly
with that.
nothing better at the moment. There's certainly nothing better. Bitcoin does what it does really well, and nothing
Yeah, it
else
works.
competes with
It
it.
works
Yeah.
so good. I mean, I had to pay people yesterday, and the contractors we use who want to accept Bitcoin, different parts of the world, boom, paid them. People who want to accept fiat, fuck me. It was so hard. It's just so hard, full of friction. It sucks.
It is very hard. We have a program here in the United States called Zelle, and it allows you to pay from bank account to bank account. And every single time I use it, and I'm sending $500,000, not a lot of money, 500 to 1,000. I have to call them on the phone, and I have to say, "Hey, I'm trying to use your software. It stopped me. It blocked me. I'm sending money to someone that worked for me. It's $500, not a lot, $1,000. And it breaks every time. So it's a relief to use Bitcoin, where you can just send what you want, and no customer service person comes on and says, "Are you sure you want to send this?" Which I know is a nice security feature, and I know what they're trying to do. But at the same time, adults got to spend their money. If you want to buy something, you should be able to buy it. And I totally agree with what Victoria is saying about the market staying insane longer than your portfolio can stay solvent. But I think the other quote to remember there too is that chaos is an opportunity. I don't know where it goes, no financial advice, but when everything is swirling around you, sometimes there's a winner out there, and you got to find it.
They love it. They love choppiness in the market, which is why they love Bitcoin. Because it goes up and down, and you can make money of it going down and going up if you know what you're doing. Most people don't know what they're doing. They're going to lose all their money, so don't fiddle around with it. But like people, traders love volatility. There's nothing more they hate than a stable, healthy market.
And going back to what Victoria said about data centers, it's been so interesting. As a kid, I was just devouring cyberpunk sci-fi like William Gibson and other things, and they're talking about these great data havens that they build in Brazil, and how you can get any kind of data you want, and there's data brokers and all of this stuff happening. So in my head, I always thought this would happen with the data centers. Once again, I didn't invest in any data center stock. I didn't see any of this coming. I'm really dumb. But from a science fiction perspective, even seeing RAM and hard drive prices go back up, and then trying to remember that a few years ago or even a few months ago, they were inexpensive, and that it made no sense. Like we had too much RAM, we had too much hard drives. I never have that problem at home. I need more RAM, I need more hard drives. But yeah, it's really neat to see it actually happen in the real world, even though it's kind of horrifying, like that giant one in Utah. They want to build the giant one in Nevada, these huge buildings. And again, they employ hardly anyone. They sell them to the local community, blah, blah, blah. It's going to make jobs. Once they build the thing, once they fill the thing, they get as few staff as they can, as they said in that great video. The front fell off. It's like, oh, what's the minimum crew for an oil tanker? Well, I suppose one. We could have one person driving it. If he's drunk and he crashes into the thing, well, whoopsie, we should have had more staff. But these data centers don't employ anybody. And like Victoria said, though, with the startups and spending all the money, it's been a long time ago. But I remember we were so critical of ChangeTip, and they raised so much money. I think it was like $5 to $10 million. And, you know, here at the World Crypto Network, we could run for 500 years on that, right? We don't spend that much money. We don't have that much money. But at the same time, there's this startup belief, and I've heard about it, and I kind of believe it, that you have to spend like sailors, that you have to take the dignitaries out for a good time in Amsterdam, and that you have this very slim window where your startup is interesting. And if you can blow it up, you know, you can be Uber, and you can be, Facebook and Google and whatever. And if you don't, like Victoria said, it is best to burn the 5 million as fast as you can. And that's the strangest idea, and it totally leads to what you're saying about people who were previously whining and dining, and they were the vice president of this, and they were very big, and 2 years later they're gone. Here we are, still floating around doing our little thing, and for no money. And these people burned all the money and whatever. Even BTC Jam, which I worked for, and this is literally unheard of, they gave the money back. They raised, I want to say 8, and they gave back 6. Because the idea was not sound and it was a bad idea, and they didn't execute well. It's unheard of, but this can happen out there.
Was that just their choice? Were they like, okay, look, take the money back. We're sorry, we tried. We burnt through 2 million, but here's 6 million back.
Obviously, I worked there. It was a Bitcoin loan company. We actually and it's insane to say this now, we let people take the Bitcoin off of the exchange. All they would have had to do is lock it all down, like they do now with the quote loaning and whatever. So we let them take it. The first set of loans they did, these people had great, big, wonderful hearts. They believed that anonymous Bitcoin loans would work. So people would just show up, take $1,000 and run. And if it was in Bitcoin, it could have been hundreds of Bitcoin. They started very early. Eventually, and again, I wasn't there. I was let go at a certain point. I believe that the lawyers and the accountants came in and took a look at what they're doing. And they needed a court case to say that these loans were real loans so that they could take people to collections and that they could complete the other half of a loan. And I think they lost their court case. I think it was not a real loan. And I think that the money people and the lawyers and the serious people came in and said, okay, startup guys, you messed up. I wasn't there at that point. I don't know. But yeah, it was a mess. ChangeTip was a mess. All of these things are messes. But again, maybe they hit it right and they knock it out of the park is the only way I can understand it. And again, I'm obviously burning my money slowly. They burnt it fast. We're still here. They're gone. Their service is gone. A lot of our services are still running. So it's very strange what Wall Street chooses to invest in. But again, they're trying to get those 1 in a million, the company that becomes Uber. They're not really trying to get like middling companies or companies that produce videos or produce books or whatever. They want that.
Well, the clues in the term, like startup, this word startup, it's like the thing is just going to, it's going to be a startup, and then you're going to sell it and you're going to get an IPO, you're going to make loads of money. It's not a business, which is actually a thing which you should aspire to build as a business, which is sustainable, makes money. And yeah, Flash in the plan, like 1% of them maybe, break through and actually become unicorns and do well for themselves, less probably. And it just, VCs are idiots, man. I've spoken to a bunch of them. They're just idiots. Like almost all of them are complete morons. They've just got access to money. They don't really care either. They invest in the thing which is hip. They get their management fee, in perpetuity for managing the fund. And then, as long as they're doing the thing as long as they're investing in the things which everyone else, all the other investment funds are investing in, they can turn to them and say, well, they invested in this thing as well. And, so it's not just me making a bad decision. Everyone made a bad decision. It's a weird system of managing capital, just like burning it. And yeah.
Well, from the outside, and certainly before you watch the TV show Silicon Valley on HBO, it seems like startups are what Ben and I want. where a problem exists on the market and you make a company to provide a solution to that problem, right? Like I wanted Change Tip to work. I wanted people to get tipped on Twitter. I think that's a good idea. They were providing that solution. But what they were really doing, according to Peter Thiel's book, 0 to 1, he believes and promotes in his book that all startups should attempt to monopolize the market so they can raise prices. So Amazon, as much as I love getting access to every book ever, and I can order them, they're only doing that to kill all the bookstores so they can raise prices. That makes me sad, but it makes sense why they would invest in these things. It makes sense why you'd invest in Uber, that like cuts out Lyft, cuts out this company, goes after the taxis, the absolute most mercenary company idea in the world. You would invest in them if you wanted them to take over the market and raise prices, which seems like what they want to do. But I do think we have.
I've got a whole chapter on that in my book. So.
Have you actually what on these companies and what they do to the markets?
Yeah. Because it's about the whole way in which the fiat system is constructed, because it ties into everything. Bitcoin disrupts this kind of financialization, which is why having Bitcoin tied into the existing financial system is just a complete anomaly, because Bitcoin literally is the parasite that eats it from the inside out. But it's like the financial people don't understand it well enough in order to figure that out yet. But yeah, the concept of investing, because the problem is if you invest all that money, it's cheaper to borrow money because you don't pay tax on it. And also if you're borrowing large amounts of it, you don't pay as much interest. You get better deals on interest. So the rich poor divide isn't so much about the fact that rich people aren't paying enough tax on their income. It's about the fact they live on debt, so they never pay any tax. That's the difference. And they've got access to cheaper loans than the average person. When I was setting up my dental practice, I had to take out loans at 11 and 12%, whereas if you're a big corporation, you can take out your loans at 0%. That's the real divide, because how are you supposed to compete with that when you're setting up your own business?
Yeah, it's rigged. It's completely rigged. And the permissionless mindset which you get working in Bitcoin and also and other things, these sorts of like free and open source protocols and tools, you realize that it doesn't have to be rigged, that you can build a ecosystem where everyone kind of has access to very similar tooling. And yeah, that's cool that you cover it in your book.
And going back to the SoftBank story and the goose that laid the golden eggs and the value of the goose, one of the reasons why their position is so questionable is because they've borrowed money to make this major, I estimate perhaps $70 billion investment into OpenAI. So their debt actually comes due seemingly before we would hit ASI, super intelligent AI. And that's part of the whole risk about investing in. They're up 70% since last year. They're down 11% since he made this incredible speech. Other people are calling him an absolute genius. He's done this before. He tried to get the goose valued. He tried to say goose has no value, that his company that picks everything, the ones making the choices, has no value. And it didn't work last time. It doesn't seem like it's going to work this time. And I don't know. They might get called on that incredible bet. They might get called on the 70 billion or so bet. One more quick story before we close this really long topic. I wanted to say that, living on this stuff, one time I told Adam Back, I was like, I have to keep selling to keep living, and it's not working good. And he said to me a very smart thing. He said, oh, you shouldn't do that. You should be buying Bitcoin. You should be getting more Bitcoin. And this is especially interesting now as he's forming these massive Bitcoin investment vehicles. And because of the timing of the system, if we do recover, if we fall more, he's an idiot like the rest of us. But if we do recover his investment vehicles, and I don't even understand how he controls them or what part he might have. I thought he was a humble computer scientist, but he'll have the lowest mark. He'll be below Saylor. He'll be below Metaplanet. He'll be below Nakamoto's. He'll have the potentially best of these Bitcoin investment vehicles. So, hey, how about a job or a grant, Mr. Back? But we'll see. Anyway, let's move on to the exit question.
Well, after you exposed him in the Epstein files, I don't think that'll go down.
We
I
didn't. We were
didn't.
good. We looked
We
at
were
that.
very good. We were
Yeah,
before
'cause
everyone
we
though. Yeah,
found it, and then we were like,
we
this guy
found.
can't even remember his name
He's
after
not
3
hiring
days.
you. Put it that way.
Yeah, we were like,
Oh,
he didn't even remember his name after 3 days. He's just literally the CTO being rolled out for the cringe billionaire. There's no story here. I moved on.
yeah. He called him
And then now
Yeah,
you
Andy.
get
yeah.
all these like
Yeah.
memes of like Adam Backer with Epstein, all this shit, and you're just like, bloody hell, man! Just look at
It just shows what happens when you reach a certain level of fame, and he's reached that level. So I think everyone gets accused of that. But we do have the exit question, the Magic 8 Ball, which I've not brought with me on vacation, but I do have this incredible new 8 Ball built by DJ Booth. Shout out to DJ Booth. Let's start with Victoria. Do you think the price of Bitcoin will be higher or lower this time next week?
Lower.
We have this little thing. We'll try this too. We might not do this every week, but we're going to try it now. Ben, higher or lower?
I think we should do it every week. And if it doesn't work, we'll just ask DJ Booth to fix any bugs. He's great, DJ Booth. This is cool. I mean, I got to just. I'm always going to copy Victoria now. She's the has the best predictions, so lower.
All right, and I will continue to be bullish because that's all I can do. Higher, I predict higher. And now the Magic 8 Ball by DJ Booth. We'll shake it, which could cause bubbles. What will the price of Bitcoin be? Will it be higher this time next week? My reply is no. The ball is bearish. We can't even get help from the online Magic 8 Ball. Thanks again, DJ Booth. Moving on to issue 2. Michael Saylor's strategy faces no easy way out as Bitcoin prices continue to drop. The STRC stock that he said would stay at $100 is not at $100. Strategy cannot do anything to save themselves. If they buy more Bitcoin, the market may sink more. If they sell Bitcoin, the market may fly apart. It seemed like such a simple idea. He pushed it so hard at the Bitcoin conference. He told us all to start our own version of strategy. And now he's in the hole. Ben Ark, what do you think about Michael Saylor? Does he survive? Does strategy survive?
I don't think he really cares. He's just going to come over. I mean, he's probably. I'm not making any accusations. He may. I mean, he may be a spook. That's what I've heard. I don't know. That's what I've heard. Going to do a Trump. That's what I've heard. He might be a spook.
He behaves like one.
I mean, but we can't. I don't know. I don't want to accuse him directly of being a spook. So I don't know if his interests are entirely honorable when it comes to Bitcoin, but I don't think he cares. Like he's just going to make a fat stack, ride the wave. He's going to walk away from strategy no matter what with a ton of money. So I don't really think he cares how well it does. I think he's going to. It's these preferred stocks. It's the dividend obligations are huge for investors on these preferred stocks, and they just can't afford it when the Bitcoin price drops. And we're in a bear market, and as I said, it could go for a while. And actually, when the AI, I mean, we will do well off the back of the AI bubble popping eventually, but currently, Bitcoin is acts in a similar way to tech stock. So when it has bad news, anyway, at least. So I would expect that it probably goes down with the AI bubble at the same time. So and we've got to wait a while for the halvening pump anyway. So yeah, he could be in trouble, and he could have to sell more Bitcoin, and then that kind of breaks the whole value proposition of strategy and what it did. He's a funny old character because he's like that for some people who came into Bitcoin in whatever it was, 2022, whenever Saylor started being a thing. He is their Andreas. So like different epochs in Bitcoin, you have these different very public figures, and people who join Bitcoin at that particular point in time, those public figures are, they're kind of sacrosanct. So you have like the people who joined Bitcoin during the era of an Andreas, like he's the guy. He was the one who educated them on all these great ideas we should have in Bitcoin. And then you had like before that, he maybe had like the Max Kaiser period. And then after it, you had like the sort of Saifedean period, which was terrible. And then now you've got this Michael Saylor period. So this is why you have these like followers of Saylor, and you're like, well, why are these people following him? Because he's an absolute idiot. That's because we've been here for a while. Well, he's not an idiot, but he's just full of bullshit, right? That's because we've been here for a while, and we know that he's just recycling all these talking points that everyone else has recycled for a long time. But if you were coming in at Bitcoin a few years ago, he would be the guy you listen to. He would be the guy you would, watch all of his interviews and have your mind blown by this new Bitcoin thing, which is why they're so defensive of him. And he went on CNN and he got people to buy his thing, but it's like we said at the time, it's like a temporary hack on the financial system, which won't be around forever, and he managed to exploit it. And then for a while had this magic money, this money printer where you could just print money. But yeah, we're gonna have a long and sustained bear market. It's not going up. He's got these crazy dividends he's got to pay to his investors on the preferred stocks. So I don't know, it's like $1 billion. How much is it a month? It's like $1 billion a month or something bonkers. Or maybe it's less. So yeah, he's pretty screwed, but he'll walk away rich. He doesn't care. Or
It did.
he's a spook and he wants to break the whole thing. Could also be a thing. That's what I heard.
It did seem for a while like he was turtle topping and he'd found an infinite money glitch. And that just seems wrong. That seemed wrong at the time. It seems wrong now. Nothing's infinite. Nothing goes on forever. Even that goose that lays the golden eggs. But like Ben said, I'm so happy and honored and just amazed to be on the Andreas tree. It was such a pleasure to be educated by him. I loved his videos. It was an honor to meet him and have him on the shows and stuff. I know he's not working in Bitcoin anymore. And I think that's a huge loss. It was a huge loss when he stopped going on CNN. He went on Joe Rogan. You guys can go check that out. Really amazing. It's been a long time since I've seen it, so I'm sure he blew Joe Rogan's mind. And if you look at the things that he said now, they're just as true today. So shout out to Andreas. And again, I hate to be the one to bring up Epstein, but the whole time before the Trump thing, before the presidency, all you ever heard about Epstein is that he was probably a spy. All I heard is that he was videoing and audioing and recording these rich people doing horrible things. Then he was blackmailing them. I don't know what country for. No one knows how he got his money. He used to be like a math teacher. Somebody recommended him to some weird finance job and he took off from there. It's a very strange story the more you look at it. And the same thing with the Saylor story. To us here in Bitcoin, it seems like he appears on the scene. But as we know from reading the history, MicroStrategy is an old company. They had already blown up once. So just like we forget he hadn't sold, we hadn't broken the rainbow chart, look at the past. I forget the details, but it was during the dot-coms and MicroStrategy was way up and then they were way down. Also, he was a party boy. He had these huge parties on his boats. And I always felt this was kind of a disqualifier to him being the voice of Bitcoin truth. You never hear about Andreas having huge parties or yachts or anything, or really doing anything wrong ever. And it's so strange, like Ben said, to see so many people go to him as their source of truth and then not even to look up at his history. And I'm talking history like the 90s, like 92. Like you could get articles, like we got the internet. We could get articles about Saylor, but we don't. No one ever, they just have him on CNBC all the time or whatever, never saying, hey, welcome back. It's the crash artist who used to have big parties. What do you got for us now? Victoria Jones, what do you think about Saylor? He's in a lot of trouble.
Yeah, and everyone forgets that, he trashed Bitcoin before he got into it. I think there was a tweet from 2013 or something where he said, it was never going to work. And then all of a sudden in 2020, he changed his tune. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's very disappointing. Like the comment I made earlier, he certainly doesn't, his narrative doesn't match with what Bitcoin is. And I think it's very misleading. And I think really he's been a victim of his own success, really, because it was his idea to financialize Bitcoin. And then because of the financialization, I'd say the top was suppressed and the low is probably going to be accelerated. That is thanks to the financialization. Once you put Bitcoin in an ETF, you're not measuring the actual movement of Bitcoin. You're measuring the movement of paper Bitcoin. However those ETFs have valued it and whatever shenanigans they can do to manufacture the price. So I think it's very unfortunate. And also I think he's planned his share issuance based on the fact that it never goes below the previous top, like I was explaining previously. But again, because the whole dynamics of the market have now been messed with, it is going to go down below that. I mean, one of the articles said that he thought it had hit a floor at 60, but it's now touching 58. So, you know, if that was his expectation, then maybe he is in trouble. So, I mean, one of the articles also said that he had enough of a float to kind of keep him going for about 10 months. And I'd say in about 10 months, we'll probably have seen the bottom or probably on the way up again. But a lot depends on how far we go down. You know, even if we're on the way up, if we've gone down really low, going up at that point might not be enough to save him. So I don't know. I think he's played a very risky strategy. And frankly, I think it deserves to fail. You know, and I'm sure there's plenty of people who'd roast me for that opinion, but it's not in tune with what the ideals of Bitcoin are. You know, someone who should be supporting the truth of Bitcoin in Michael Saylor's position, fair enough, have it on your balance sheet, but then invest the money on supporting node runners, help support the software without doing strange things on the software that include things like JPEGs that have no business being on the software in the first place. You know, those are the sort of behaviors that imply that you've got a good actor on Bitcoin. His actions do not support the fundamentals of what Bitcoin is there to do. So yeah, I think karmically it's destined to fail. And it's just a matter of time. So we'll see.
Well, and before everyone gets mad in the comment section down below, people always say, what have you got against Michael Saylor? All he does is support Bitcoin. But my support for Bitcoin, I think our support for Bitcoin and his is very different. If you look at what he's done, he never supports Bitcoin development. In fact, he supports an idea called ossification. He believes that Bitcoin should turn to bone and should be hardened and never change. And as we all know from software development, you cannot be inflexible. If your software is inflexible, you fail. If your software bends but doesn't break, you win. And that's been Bitcoin for the longest time. It bends, but it doesn't break. Additionally, he's never supported the idea of Bitcoin as a currency. We've explained several times on the show that it's a three-legged stool. And if you knock out one of those legs, it goes away. If it's not being used as a currency, it doesn't have value and it's not digital gold, right? The digital gold argument relies on it being used for currency, and he's never supported, and I don't believe he believes in the idea that Bitcoin should be currency. So this is a big deal. This is why we are, we've been critical of him from the beginning, and we continue to be critical now. Of course, we'd have him on the show if you ever wanted to reach out on Twitter. I'm available at Mad Bitcoins. But I doubt. I'll be there checking my my inbox. I'm probably going to ossify or turn to bone. But let's move to the exit question. How long does strategy have? Does it last 6 months, a year, or forever? Ben Ark, 6 months, a year, or forever?
I mean, from what you said about the .com era, I suppose maybe it'll just continue to endure. It will just continue to exist, but it's going to be a long bear market. They're going to have to sell more Bitcoin. It's going to take a lot of trust out of the platform. They're certainly going to, yeah. The good times have ended, I think, for strategy.
Victoria Jones, you said 10 months already. Do you say 6 months, 12 months, or forever?
I think if the AI crash gets really bad, it will really put pressure on him. And even if they've got 10 months now, it could be over in 6 months. It could just be forced to be over. Wouldn't surprise me. So
we may have criticized his ideas. We might have said that he's in a box and questioned his strategy, questioned his speech, but I still think it goes forever. I think he's Wile E. Coyote, the Roadrunner. I think he gets out of this. I think he finds some way, and he had all the finance tricks before. He must still have a staff of those guys and gals, and I'll bet that he finds a way out. He's just that clever. But we'll see how it goes. We'll certainly find out soon. Check out World Crypto Network at worldcryptonetwork.com. We've got 4,992 videos, including shorts, which are up here on the front page right now. And you can check them all out for free at worldcryptonetwork.com or on YouTube. Moving on to issue 3. Morgan Stanley's Bitcoin executive says, education, not products, is Wall Street's real obstacle. The head of digital asset strategy, Amy Oldenburg, says Bitcoin's biggest barrier to mainstream adoption, I could get through it without laughing, is not product availability, but investor and advisor education. Here we are again. Wall Street is here to tell us what we've done wrong, while we've done nothing but try to educate people for the last 13 years. Victoria Jones, what do you think about Morgan Stanley, this lady who probably gets paid $200,000 a year, telling us what we've already been saying for the last 13 years, just like that guy, I forget where he's from, he was a billionaire and he was complaining about the interface. He was on the stage with Eric Trump at the Bitcoin convention. We've fixed the interface. We've talked about this for years. It's not hard to use. I agree that it's hard to understand. Like Victoria said, you have to have many disciplines, many mindsets. But what do you think about Wall Street telling us that we haven't done enough education?
Well, of course, she's talking about their bank product. And the thing is, I think it's good education like this show that's preventing sensible people from not investing in their product. She's not talking about education, she's talking about brainwashing, because anyone who wants to invest in Bitcoin goes to an exchange, buys a Bitcoin and puts it in their own wallet. They don't buy a bank's ETF. So yeah, she's not talking about true education, because there's plenty of people out there. I wrote my book in 6 years ago, 2020. There's several books out there. There are plenty of people educating people. There's plenty of education. It's about the fact that part of the education has taught people that these ETFs are scammy products and you're just buying into the old system if you fall for that. And thank God people are starting to wake up and realize it because of the education. So yeah, crazy.
As difficult as it may be, self-custody is one of the real uses of Bitcoin. And if, like Victoria says, if you buy the ETF, if you buy I forget the name, the stock that you could hold that would buy Bitcoin, or strategy, or any of these things, you're avoiding the reality of holding your own keys, which was the whole point of the Satoshi revolution, where he said, we have these banks that are selling loans in boxes and marking them good, and they're bad loans. It's a bad fish. You can't see inside the box. With Bitcoin, if you hold it, and if you really do, you can see inside the box, you can see the whole network. Theoretically, we could see what Coinbase has in their vaults, so on and so forth, and we can't touch it. That's the whole brilliance of the structure. And as I said, Saylor rebelled against this idea. The banks are rebelling against this idea. They're trying to make it a digital gold that doesn't move and stays in their vaults, and you can't even verify that it's there. And that's all wrong. That's all, Jesus throwing the money changers out of the temple and then bringing them back in. I mean, this is insane. It's not what it was about. But Ben Ark, what do you think about the issue, whatever it was? The education is the real obstacle. It's all our fault.
I agree with Victoria. What she's talking about isn't education in Bitcoin. It's educating people how to buy their ETF. And the whole point of Bitcoin is to remove trusted third parties. That's why the whole thing exists. You remove trusted third parties for payments. And that's it. No TTP.
And all of a sudden, in the middle of your Bitcoin revolution, all the trusted third parties show up and start to say, you should just trust us. It's so much easier. Private keys are too hard to write down.
You don't know anything about Bitcoin. Actually, you should have these trusted third parties. They're really important. Anytime there's someone saying you should use a trusted third party in Bitcoin, they're talking bollocks, and they're just doing it because they're going to make some money. And it's the same for everything. ETFs, whatever.
And it is funny, Ben, to go back to what you said earlier. This is a core disagreement from Andreas followers to Michael Saylor followers. If you follow Michael Saylor, it's a no-brainer that you trust a company to hold your Bitcoin. Strategy is that company. You're buying Strategy stock. People did this for a while. I had no idea what they're doing. Again, it was all these people that invested in those weird vehicles. All the people that are 100% into Bitcoin, but suddenly have other money to invest in other things, and they're making money on the stocks and all these things. And I'm like, oh, I thought we were just all in Bitcoin. But yeah, all those people, they trust a third party. The Andreas people don't. I think that's a major change. But let's move on to the exit question. Are they right about education? What else can we do? Or are they really covering? I don't know. That's not a good exit question. What do you think, Victoria? They're honest again with this education thing.
Yeah, they're talking about brainwashing. It's a completely different thing. There's plenty of education in Bitcoin, and anyone who's not investing in the ETF, quite frankly, has been well educated. So well done to all you fellow authors out there.
Does seem like a lack of brainwashing. Ben Ark, what do you think? A final word on the so-called education problem?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's brainwashing, and they should, like you said, Thomas. I mean, they should at least invest in some of the free and open source infrastructure which supports and creates value in this thing, or even if not that, like actually invest in some Bitcoin companies. I mean, yeah, I have no idea why anyone gives this guy the time of day. So yeah, poor strategy, but whatever.
I think we should throw that all back on them. The people that really need to be educated are Wall Street and Michael Saylor. They need to sit down and watch the Bitcoin group from beginning to end, all 500 episodes, and then they would understand what they're buying, what they're supporting, and if they want to support it. And like Ben said, the way to support it is to invest in these open source softwares, to invest, I don't know, in the World Crypto Network, to invest in people who are like small and doing little things that help the network, and not just to come in and say, oh, I'm going to buy all the Bitcoin and hold them, and you're all stupid to do self-custody, and you're stupid to do all these things. You've been doing it wrong forever. We're Wall Street. We're the smart people. We're here to fix it. And instead, that's what they do every time. They all have these like the guy with the interface. He's like, we got trouble in the interface. Thanks. Welcome to the party, pal. You've been doing this for 20 years. Come on. Anyway, let's move on to issue 4. BlackRock launches new Bitcoin ETF combining Bitcoin exposure with covered call income. BlackRock has launched the iShares Bitcoin Premium Income ETF BITA, a covered call Bitcoin fund that combines Bitcoin spot and IBIT exposure with option writing to generate monthly income while retaining most of Bitcoin's upside potential. And if you know what that means, congratulations for reading the lingo and the jingo words of Wall Street. Meanwhile, Bitcoin ETFs see record investor flight as the cryptocurrency hits lowest level since 2024. Obviously, BlackRock is here to save us like so many others. Ben Ark, what do you think about the BlackRock ETF and the potential for whatever magic they have going on to generate income for you?
I mean, yeah, it's not something which interests me. Like, you buy a Bitcoin, you hold it yourself, just buy a Trezor, stick on a Trezor. It's really not hard. And there's a gazillion videos and whatever out there to educate you on how to do that. And yeah, to me, it's not much of not really interesting. But there is when you take this sort of free and open source parallel money, which doesn't require trusted third parties, and has this sort of deflationary thing built into it, and you have this element of time which is built into Bitcoin. There is something interesting when you marry it with traditional markets, which is why someone like Saylor can exist and build the strategy thing, and it's why BlackRock can now use that as a new tool to offer new financial products. And I think we're going to see a whole lot of other financial products which most people don't really understand, but a bunch of rich people who do understand these products or can make head and tail of these products. I mean, they like purposely obscure these products making sense because there's a certain group of people who just want to be able to exploit them and make the money out of them. But we're not going to see the end of it. There's going to more and more of these financial services are going to offer a range of different products which integrate Bitcoin in some way, where they offer better returns to people. And we're still in that position where these pension funds and whoever else, if they want to invest in Bitcoin, then they have to do it through these traditional services. So we're going to see more of these products being built, and it's not what Bitcoin was designed for, but not going against what I was saying on the last topic, but it's going to be something these companies build, and people will try and make use of, and people on Wall Street will try and make use of to make some money. But yeah, it's very confusing article. I tried to read it. I'm glad you didn't understand.
It reminds me a lot of the STRC thing, how it was supposed to maintain a peg at $100 and it hasn't maintained that peg. And it reminds me of the one before that where they were going to, oh, Nakamoto, where they were going to buy it and sell it based on algorithm or some kind of thing. They were going to find the tops for you, and they were going to make you even more money than MicroStrategy that was just holding Bitcoin. So I agree with Ben. It's very complicated ins and outs, how they're going to get you the Bitcoin benefit, but still get you a monthly dividend. It sounds like a lot. Victoria Jones, what do you think about the new BlackRock ETF?
Yeah, well, exchange traded funds in general are a relatively new financial product that only came into being after 2008. You know, it's one of the ways in which they've continued to financialize the markets. And frankly, it's highly dangerous. It reminds me of the Jenga game from The Big Short. You know, that's what it's building towards. And you're just making Bitcoin part of that process. Because you know, when all of these companies fail and they're having to draw on the actual Bitcoin in order to regain some of the value from their funds, that's going to push down the Bitcoin price as well. It's incredibly dangerous. And as I've said before, you know, if I were them and I wanted to buy cheap Bitcoin, that's exactly what I would be doing as well. So it doesn't surprise me. But unfortunately, this is just going to be one of those things that we have to ride out for those people who strongly believe in Bitcoin and what Bitcoin is designed to achieve. I mean, I support Bitcoin because I believe in the changes to society that it can facilitate in terms of making it fairer. You know, that's what we're aiming towards. But, you know, all of this financialization of Bitcoin, it just muddies the waters, and it is part of the war against what it's truly meant to be there for. And yeah, just watch out, be really careful.
The Big Short never gets old. What a great film. I love Christian Bale in that movie. I love how violently he drums, and I love it when he tells people they are wrong. He says, "You're wrong. I'm going to keep my position. I don't care what you say. I have a contract that says I don't have to care what you say. Go F yourself." And then in the later in the film, of course, spoiler alert, it's decade old movie, whatever. When he makes the money and he writes the letter to him, and he's like, "I made you all this money. You didn't even want it. Go F yourself." Boom. Like that guy. And again, he hates Bitcoin. So it's great that I love him in the film. But Michael Burry, Christian Bale, fantastic film. Big Short was wonderful. And yeah, watch it today. And so educational. Maybe those Morgan Stanley people should watch it. Moving on to issue 5, our last issue of this epic show. New documentary, Bitcoin Season, charts Bitcoin's push into the NBA. A new upcoming documentary, Bitcoin Season, explores how Bitcoin is gaining traction in professional basketball, and it goes beyond seeing the Coinbase logo on the base of every basket for years now. It apparently tells the story of Swan Bitcoin, a Bitcoin wealth services company, and the deal that they made with the Cleveland Cavaliers, the first Bitcoin-only partnership with an NBA franchise. Of course, the Sacramento Kings accepted Bitcoin years ago. No one remembers anything. Mad Bitcoins went to one of their games, paid in Bitcoin, bought a sticker or a magnet at the store in Bitcoin. That $7 is probably $50 now, or maybe 30. But what do you guys think? I think it sounds like a really interesting documentary. I'm, of course, fascinated by basketball, major sports leagues, and interested how they can connect to Bitcoin. Ben Ark, what do you think of the new film?
Yeah, I haven't actually seen it, but there's some really good content being produced more recently with documentaries. There's one on Julian Assange, I think, which is about to be premiered tonight as well, and Bitcoin, how the they made 4,000. That's actually when I first got interested in Bitcoin, was when the Visa, they were lent on by US government, and WikiLeaks could no longer, they got rugged, and WikiLeaks could no longer accept donations, and they just switched to using Bitcoin. And that's the the classics, the Satoshi kicking the hornet's nest, because he didn't want that much attention on Bitcoin at the time. But for me, that's when I was like, wow, what is this thing? What's this amazing technology where something as great as WikiLeaks, which is clearly being screwed by these governments, can just opt out they don't have to ask permission, and it blew my mind. And that's the thing, a lot of people, they say they got into Bitcoin from Silk Road or whatever, but for me it was WikiLeaks. So yeah, so sorry, a bit of a tangent there, but there is a documentary on that was also coming out, which looks pretty cool. But yeah, I know the Swan Bitcoin guys, and yeah, they've been working hard. I haven't actually watched the documentary, so I don't know how it plays out. What do? They onboard the NBA to have Bitcoin as part of their treasury, or what?
It's not clear. It sounds like it's a tool of player empowerment. So they're letting the players take some of their funds in Bitcoin, which again has happened before. To agree with you, Ben, one of the big stories I read about Bitcoin is that the EFF was accepting Bitcoin, and then a few weeks later that the EFF was not accepting Bitcoin. So there was a lot of confusing signals back then, and of course the classic story is these people that had leftover change from their Silk Road purchases, and then it turned out to be lots and lots of money. So that's always a fun story, but you don't
Yeah,
hear
I
it
think
very
that would
much anymore.
I mean, yeah, Pete McCormick does a similar thing with with the Bedford football team. I think these sports stars, they got lots of like extra cash, and they should diversify their portfolios. They should know what Bitcoin is, um, and a lot of them are interested. They're sat in the locker room and they're on their phones and they're watching the Bitcoin price go up and down. It's quite exciting. Adds an extra layer to life. And then if some of them learn about the actual who was that? There was a American football player, wasn't there? You messaged me once and I was very flattered. And he was a big Bitcoiner back in the day. What was his name again with a K?
I recall a player on the Rams, perhaps, and that he took some of his salary in Bitcoin, and then it turned out really
Yeah.
well for him. I think other players can do
Kobe.
that, although
Is that it? Is that his name? Yeah, that's it. That's the guy. I think that's the guy.
Kobe.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
uh,
He seemed like
Kobe's pretty
you
famous.
feel like he was on the social. He's on Twitter, and he knew what Bitcoin was, and he understood it, and he understand the value proposition. But yeah, I mean, a lot of these kids who are playing in sports, there's a lot of them. I mean, they're from all different sorts of backgrounds, but there's a bunch of them they're not traditionally from money. So it's nice that they get kind of some sort of financial education with what they're doing, and also they probably get the premise of Bitcoin. So good for them. Modern Swan for onboarding the NBA.
There's been quite a few athletes. I don't think Kobe Bryant was one. Russell Okung, the player from the Sandra Bullock movie, invested Odell Beckham from the Giants.
That's
Trevor
the guy,
Lawrence.
Okong. Yeah, Okong. He wanted to meet me once in Miami, and I didn't get the message until after Miami.
Oh, too
But I
bad.
was
He was the film was called The Blind Side, and he's one of the large players on the line. And the film was very laudatory of his foster parents and Sandra Bullock and such. And in the reality, he's rejected the film and said that the opposite was true. So he has a fascinating story. He'd be fun to meet. There's been many other football players and basketball players. I think Scottie Pippen from the award-winning Michael Jordan Bulls was a big Bitcoin supporter and even said he was like talking to Satoshi in his dreams, which I guess we need, but we also don't need. The thing I do worry about, Ben, going back to the education issue, is that the players have the Bitcoin on their machine, and it's the same as gambling to them. It's the same as buying stocks or whatever, because they might not have any information or any education, and they're just betting on blue or red or orange or whatever it may be. And maybe it worked for some of them, and perhaps Mr. Okong or someone else has the education, but otherwise, I would worry about them, because who knows if they're going to buy Bitcoin or Litecoin or Johnny Coin or Freddie Coin? Who knows what it could be? Victoria Jones, what do you think about the basketball players accepting Bitcoin? The Cleveland Cavaliers, once the home of LeBron James, apparently making a deal with Swan Bitcoin.
Yeah, I mean, I think Bitcoin is a good match for athletes because they tend to make most of their money in the early years, but they can't sustain that for a whole career. So unlike, more traditional careers where you're kind of earning a good salary, maybe drip by drip over 50 years, for a good sports player, you've probably got a 10-year window. And one of their biggest problems is the fact that even though they're earning these big salaries, it doesn't sustain its value over a long period of time. So Bitcoin's a perfect match for them. So I suspect it was a very easy sell to get the basketball players involved. The only caveat I would have, having read the article though, is that all the people in the film are all the people we've just been slating on this podcast, like Michael Saylor and all of his followers. So yeah. So yeah, it makes sense on the one hand, but whether or not they're getting the right message about Bitcoin, I would question.
All right, and let's move on to the predictions or story of the week. Ben Ark, are you ready to a prediction or a story of the week? Go ahead.
Well, I've got two. So on the because it marries it in nicely with the topic of content. So if I could share screen. Actually, no, Thomas, I don't need to share screen. You've got this up. Have you got this up? Or did I get this up?
I've got it, Ben. Go
Oh,
ahead.
here we are. Yeah. So our friend Alex Waltz, he's a friend of the show. We know him. He did a huge deep dive, which took months. I mean, he's so autistic, and he spent months researching the first few blocks of Bitcoin and then how they were mined. And then with this video, he proves that Hal wasn't the second person to be mining, that there were two people at the time before Hal got in. And then also Satoshi probably wasn't a group of people, that it was just a singular person, and it almost certainly wasn't like the CIA or something. And he goes in this video, it's quite fast, him talking quite fast, but it's beautifully filmed. And it's just got such an eye for detail, the lighting, the way it's filmed. It's a 10-minute film. And I think he spent months and months on it. And it's a perfect research piece on the very beginning of Bitcoin. And I think at the end, he has a really nice poignant point, which I really liked, is that really Hal and the other guy as well, who was one of the first people to run Bitcoin, that if there's a new idea which comes out, that to try and be like them, to try and embrace it. Because obviously a lot of the cypherpunks rejected Bitcoin early on, but no, it's a great piece, and you can go check him out on it's Rural Avocado on Twitter, and then also in Nostr as well, which is the link I sent you, and then that also ties in nicely. So I am going to share a screen now. So if you could enable screen share. Go on. Disabled.
They changed the interface. Let me see. Share
So
settings.
The
So
Zoom
you
team.
have to, when I share, choose individual windows, button behavior, host tools for share. One participant may choose at a time, so it's buried in a menu. Thanks, guys. All right, Ben, I got it from the menu.
Okay. Use operating system. Allow. Built-in display. Can you see my screen?
I can see myself.
You can see yourself. Good. So the thing which I've been working on, and which we just had a look at Alex's post, was this is so on Nostr.com, we had kind of a techno-babbly website for a very long time on Nostr.com, and it was always kind of an issue because people, when they came along to Nostr, but we didn't want to be seen to be capturing users into our own client. Actually, I mean, I got Nostr.com originally because I was the first one to make a Twitter clone on Nostr, and that's where I put it. But then we realized we thought it should be an educational kind of thing. But we have a huge amount of traffic, and I think the technobabble just kind of scares them off. So we've built a very simple Twitter client, still MVP. It's still not perfect. But it's got a few really neat features. So, we've got a nice info page here about Nostr, and then we've got some nice SEO stuff going on. But we also have a new technology which Fiat just been working on, which I think is really impressive, where you can shard an NSEC. For a noob, you can shard an NSEC across these different operators, but it means that you don't have to begin with, you don't have to hold your own NSEC. So a noob can come along and they can just continue with Google. And then I've already signed in once, so it should just go straight through. Oh, there we are. Dox myself. Okay. And then we're in, and then it should just, so what happened just then was it's created an NSEC. No, it hasn't created an NSEC. It's got an NSEC saved, which is then sharded across these different operators so they can't steal the NSEC. And then when I log in, it rebuilds the NSEC so I can actually log in. But I can log in with Google. I'd have to log in with, and maintain my NSEC, and it's relatively a safe way to maintain an NSEC. And it's great. So this profile, I think, yeah, it's just kind of my testing profile. You can like, retweet, post, all those sorts of things. And then you can look up other users. And I got a nice little feature as well. So you can actually, if you have a user which you go and check out, you can, oh yeah, there we are. So Fiat Jeff reposted Alex's great video as well. You can obviously look at their feed of what they've reposted, but we've got this fun little option. So I can DM them, I can add them as a friend, I can follow them. And I got this nice little feature which I really like, which is actually you can pull their follow feed, who they follow, and then you can see what they see on their follow feed, which is kind of fun. So I think yeah, so you can see what the sorts of people they follow and see what their follow feed. And I think it's quite a nice way actually of discovering new content. And you might see a post you're really interested in, and then you could follow that person and then build up your own follow list. And then we've got some other stuff too. So I think the Nostr.com client should be very simple. You shouldn't try and be, we're not going to pack in loads of features. It's going to be really simple kind of Twitter client. And we're really going to focus on a very vanilla and safe experience for noobs, where they don't get any not safe for work content, which a lot of clients have issues with. So we have a global feed, which is filtered client side. Lots of stuff gets filtered out, and we try and keep the users safe. And then obviously you've got your following feed of people you're following. I'm not sure I'm actually following anyone on here. Oh no, I think I might be following myself on this. And then we have a custom feed. And then in the custom feed, you can follow friends of friends. So if you're following someone, you can click on this friends of friends thing and it'll pull their follow list as well. And it'll just mix in their follows into this feed. So you have control over your algorithm, which I think is one of the biggest selling points of Nostr, is that you're not beholden to some corporation and CEO. You actually have control over the thing. And then the other cool innovation we have, I'm going to delete this. When you use Pomegranate, which is the thing which you use to log in with Google, you can actually create these bunker URLs and you can log into other services with them. So if I go to messages, I've got a simple DM message system, which is completely private. We also have a separate dedicated DM client, which we've also launched. And in this, it'll say, do you want to log in with this account? And when I say yes, it will generate a bunker URL, and then it will log me in with that bunker URL. So for whatever reason that gets compromised, I can just go here and delete it, and then that will no longer be able to use it. So in a way, you can kind of use this as a mother app, or a parent app, and you can generate these different bunker URLs, use them to log into different Nostr services. And if it ever gets compromised, the key, the URL, then you can just delete it over here, and then no longer log in with it. So yeah, and the reason we did this is we have on Nostr.com about 1 million unique users a day we're hitting Nostr.com, when it was kind of a technobabbly website, which we've actually moved to Nostr.org. So we had this technobabbly website, which kind of showed off what it did, but it was the sort of thing which would put users off. So now we've just got this super simple client on Nostr.com, and then we've moved Nostr.com stuff to Nostr.org. And I've already started to see a bit of an uptick there in users going to Nostr, because obviously we have these unique users going to Nostr. But it was always quite funny that the rest of the industry just didn't know that they were building all this cool stuff, and then they're like, why aren't more people coming into Nostr? And it was because 1 million people Googling Nostr, hitting Nostr.com and going, oh, this looks confusing, and then moving. So we were like standing in the way of this beautiful industry of clients and stuff. And so now we have this simple client to try and onboard people, and then say, hey, look, there's other clients, check them out, and push people into the Nostr ecosystem. So yeah, sorry, I ranted on a little bit too much, but it was, be quite proud of it. And it's MVP, and it'll get better, but it's a usable, functional client.
Well, that sounds great, Ben. And it sounds like the follow feed and the friend of friends features are on their way to fixing Nostr discovery, which is the big problem on Nostr. You don't know who to follow. You don't know how to find cool stuff. Part of the way Twitter does this is perhaps to automate it, to suggest a group of people, like follow this group.
Yeah, no, what we
suggest 5, they pop up 5 and they say,
we don't have that, but what we have is just a tag thing. So you're like, I'm interested in food, photography, music, Bitcoin, whatever. And then using those tags, it will then create that global feed for you. So that's what we have there. So we do have something like that, yeah. And it works really well. And actually in the global feed, when you first go onto the website, one of the things I'm filtering is in fact Bitcoin, the tag Bitcoin, Because one of the big problems was new people going to Nostr and go, oh, it's loads of crazy Bitcoiners. And when you get rid of the crazy Bitcoiners, it's all like nice photos of nature and food and music and stuff. And it's a really nice feed. So I think I'm allowing like one Bitcoin post in that global feed every 20 posts or something just to get it in there. But yeah, that's the thing which we're really interested in, curation of the feed, and then also making it very safe for new users so they don't see inappropriate content.
That's definitely the problem with my Nostr feed, and you know, they're all my Bitcoin buddies, but yeah, they fill the feed with Bitcoin and pro Nostr, and Nostr is the greatest thing and such, and I agree with them, and I like them, and they're my buddies, but yeah, I want different content. I want to see some interesting new stuff, so I'm excited, Ben, that you and the guys at Nostr.com are working on that. And again, to maybe say it in a less technical way, one of the problems with Nostr is your NSEC or your private key or your account. And if you lose it, or if it's stolen, or if it's exposed, you pretty much lose your account. So I would lose mad Bitcoins. I would lose all of my followers. Obviously, a huge crisis. And like Ben is saying, that it might be better to take this key and to shard it, to break it up into pieces, and then to store those pieces many places. How does that work, Ben? Does it store them in like Google Docs or like multiple Google accounts, something like that?
No, so we just have different operators running, and then it shards across the operators and encrypts it with the auth token thing from Google. We're going to have GitHub and another OAuth. But I think for a new person just going onto Nostr.com, they want to just be able to sign in really easy, and that's probably the easiest way for people to be able to sign in and not have to worry about NSECs. And then we push them towards, because there are great solutions for managing your NSEC in a way, like you say, which prevents it from you being able to lose it so easily, and you're not like just using the NSEC to log into services. But they're very confusing and disorienting to tell someone about and to tell it how, you know, to educate people on. So it's like, you know, piecemeal, step by step. Initial step is get someone to log in, see how Nostr exists and it works, and then later on push them towards, you know, decent like NSEC maintenance, whatever you call it, security.
Well, it sounds fantastic, Ben. And again, at Jack Dorsey, founder of Twitter. I don't know where you rich people spend your money. I don't know how you do this, but not all of your money has to go into like a Uber where it's going to go up 100 times and dominate the market. You could put some of it into these small services, these small companies that support things. Of course, everyone sees that XKCD comic strip with all the internet, and it all depends on this one open software program that no one's paying. And so many times we see this, and again, Ben, just with your work at lnbits.com and so on and so forth, you're producing all the things that we need to support Nostr and these ideas and these products, and getting no support from the VC industry because it's probably not going to 100x like a Uber or whatever, but the societal good that could be done by solving the instant messenger problem, by solving the Twitter problem in a public way where it returns to the commons. These were never supposed to be private companies. Facebook, Twitter, they jumped on our open, beautiful internet and they made it closed with walled gardens like we all predicted and horrified, screamed about, and now they're all closed. And you know, don't get me started on the algorithm and not showing videos to subscribers and not showing tweets to followers because they completely broke all the rules that we were playing under. You get followers, you get subscribers, they watch your videos, they read your tweets. That's over now. The algorithm rules. And if you don't produce all home runs, which again, going back to this, Jack Dorsey must be investing in all home run companies like WeWork or whatever. All home runs, it doesn't help society. It just helps your portfolio. You're going to end up like Elon with $1 trillion and everyone hates you. And, you know, I read the beginning of his book. Everyone hated him in childhood. Everyone hates him now. Like, it's disaster as a human being. And the societal good. I saw another thing like, there are no Elon Musk hospitals. There are no Elon Musk cancer solving facilities. And if anything, they're starting to chart, not Donald Trump, surprisingly, but Elon Musk for his destruction of US aid. He's climbing the list of horrible murders by dictators. He's up to like 15 million or something. He's chasing Mao, which is horrible, big failure. Maybe because he's so focused on the moon and all these home runs or whatever, and not just helping normal people, not just providing a bag of rice that says US aid. And again, you're not going to make any profit on that rice. but millions of people are dying because of his short-sightedness. And Jack is out there looking for the new Twitter client and burning his
No,
money
I
on
mean
Blue Sky and whatever. Come on.
no. So
Ah,
Jack Dorsey did give a lot of money to OpenSats, and they allocate money. And then he also, I think, he invested in Primal, which is a Noster client. But like Primal, they spent many millions, and their client has issues, and it's not a sort of safe client to push people towards because it has not safe for work. It has a sort of content which is very easy to filter out, and
well,
keep
and
people safe.
that content can be so destructive to the idea of Noster. Josh Shigala, popular panelist on the show, friend of the show, has told us many times how I don't know how it happened, but some of that horrible content got in his feed and it got in his head, and he hates it. And if that happens to even 100 Noster users, that's a huge disaster to turn people off in that way. All right, let's see. I have one more story. Ben mentioned that excellent video by Alex Waltz that I'd like to see now. I also read an article about the Satoshi coins saying that in a way, and again, Satoshi, the opposite of Prometheus, his name means afterthought. There was Epimetheus, that means forethought. Prometheus took fire from the gods, ended up on the rock. The bird eats his liver every day. He didn't plan ahead. This Satoshi guy, he plans ahead. From what we can understand from this article, by placing his million Bitcoins, the Satoshi coins, in piles of 50 coins each in their own address or account, however you want to understand it, he's put a little bit of quantum proof in them. They're not all in one account, $1 million, hack it, get them all. You'd have to hack each individual Satoshi account, creating a race of hackers to hack them. It's not quantum proof, but it sure is clever. Okay, let's go to Victoria Jones' prediction or story of the week. Go ahead.
Well, Ben had two stories, so his one on Noster was so good, I'm going to nick that one. There you go. You've had two stories this week, but they both came from Ben, because I don't have anything to add. But yeah, it's very cool. Very cool, Ben.
Thank you, Victor. Sorry, I took a lot of time on it. Sorry.
No, not at all. I think it was worthy. I'm more than happy to sacrifice my story for yours. It's very cool. And it's technology we really need. I think what they've done to Twitter is terrible. I really do. It was so exciting when it first came out. I got the stuff I learned on Twitter just from, I think one of the first posts I made on Twitter was when the Queen and Princess Catherine visited Nottingham where I was working, and they actually literally drove past my dental practice, and I was so excited. We didn't have a patient. I got my dental nurse, dragged her out on the streets in order to wave. And one of the first posts I posted on Twitter was a picture of her kind of going, "Oh my God, look who's visited Nottingham." And someone commented on that post going, "Oh, I should read what David Icke has to say about the royal family." And I was like, really? I had no idea. So I did. And oh my goodness, I see them completely differently now. And of course, we've now got stories in the newspaper about Prince Andrew and stuff like that. So it turned out that they were right. And I think Twitter was a really powerful tool for getting people to question things that they'd never really questioned before. I do think it's a deliberate strategy to kind of shut down the sharing of that kind of knowledge, what they've done to Twitter. And we need something else. It's like the new Gutenberg press, giving people access to that kind of information. So I think it's a really, really important tool. And I can't praise you highly enough, Ben, for all the work you've done trying to develop it.
It just used to be, Twitter used to be like the place you would go for kind of like an intellectual conversation. It used to be like Facebook was the sort of tabloid, and then Twitter was sort of the broadsheet in a way. Like you would go there to get some good content, and now you just go into it and it's just people fighting with each other. It's like
horrible.
You open it and you're like, the first tweet you see, you want to just shout at someone. You're like, no, you're wrong. And it's sending humanity to a very dark place. So I feel like when I go on Noster, because with the Noster.com thing, it also has like an Android client and then a native desktop client. When I go on Noster, I kind of feel nice, see some pictures of food and see some nice stuff and have a little intellectual conversation. It feels like Twitter used to be.
Yeah, because you can learn a lot from a polite comment. You don't learn a lot from someone raging at you, But just the
No.
fact that someone kind of said, you should really look into that. I was like, should I? Because it was news to me. I had no idea that that's something I should be questioning, and so I did. And I was just like, oh my God. Not that I believe everything that I read, but I think, sometimes having someone else questioning your understanding of the world, it really, from 2012, I really started to question some of the things I was taught and believed. And, eventually that led me to Bitcoin, and it's completely transformed my life, along with YouTube and being able to watch these shows, watching your show, Thomas, in 2016, 2017 was instrumental in getting me into Bitcoin. And yours was literally the only show at the time. It makes
Yeah.
a huge difference. And you might only have a small audience, but you never know who you're influencing and what difference you could be making in their life. It's really important to share that information. And you might not be getting as many views as some of the more popular channels. It may well be that there's a strategy to keep these channels quieter, but you just don't know how the sharing of a small piece of information can just have a snowball effect. You just don't know. So, finding ways in which you can have those nice conversations that aren't being strategized against, I just think it is a service to humanity. And I'm really grateful that someone's working on it. And
Yeah.
I mean, I've already, I think once or twice someone's mentioned Noster, and I've been able to, claim that I know you. So I've already had props for that.
For the free flow of information, you just need a free flow of information. That's what the internet always promised, was like a free flow of information.
Yeah, it's so important. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. And I agree with you on WCN. And Thomas has that great story, isn't there? Malaz, a little young kid Malaz running home from school so he could watch WCN.
Yeah.
So no, I've had a lot of influence over the years. It's a great, and that
You never know who's watching. Yeah.
Yeah, in the first place anyone ever spoke about Nostr was on
Yeah.
WCN. First time we ever had like an open discussion was on WCN, where we actually the first thing we said was, how do you pronounce it? How do you pronounce Nostr? Yeah, what a great channel.
Yeah.
There's also been some fascinating reporting on the royal family recently. They're planning to move out of Buckingham Palace to increase public access to the palace. So of course, now
They
I
never
want
moved
a
in.
tour.
They
Well,
haven't
I
moved,
want
they've
to.
never moved in.
They say they're refinishing it. They did a massive refinishing project, and when
Yeah.
that's done, I guess they're going to let the likes of me in there. So I'm going to sign up. I want a tour. I want to see the palace. I'm very respectful. I've been to palaces before. I think I've been to Balmoral in Scotland, one of their also things. And the same article also said, fascinating, that King Charles has continued his tradition that he did when he was Prince Charles in releasing his tax returns. So you can actually read what they paid to the British government and what they made as a royal family, which seems a lot more like a business. This is like the whole God takes money thing that George Carlin used to say, and how they don't pay taxes. So at least the royals pay taxes. But I think the more that you look at it, the more that you look at what they're making and what they're making it for, because they own these castles, because they own this land from I don't know where they got it. Oh, the whole thing stinks. I remember when I was a kid and I read about how they got rid of the kings, and I was like, great, democracy, progress. And then I read again, the monarchy is restored and they still have kings. What? It was like when the parliament in Germany burned down. And then I learned, oh no, they rebuilt it, it's still there. I don't understand these things. But that's a great story, Victoria. It's great to hear about it. And thank you guys for the kind words on WCN. We try to keep it going here. I don't have that much this week. I'm on my way to the Majorca blockchain days in Majorca, Spain. So I look forward to seeing you guys and gals there. I went to a comic book store today and I bought this. This is Akira Yamaguchi. And it looks like old Japanese woodcuts like Hokusai or Hiroshige, which I love. But if you look really closely, you can see this samurai is drinking coffee from a coffee mug. This guy works in the modern period. I think he's still alive today. And one of the drawings in this book that really sold me was a cutaway of an airplane with all the people inside, but done in the Japanese woodcut style. So I'm really looking forward to Akira Yamaguchi. A guy at the comic book store today sold that to me, and it's heavy. I don't look forward to carry it in my suitcase, but boy, do I look forward to flipping through it and seeing some more great Japanese woodcut art. actually from this century and this decade. So I think that's really cool. Check it out. It's really expensive on Amazon though. So I don't know, maybe there's video, you can see it on the YouTube or the internet in the image search on Google or something. So, but thanks again to everybody for joining us. Be sure to give us a thumbs up down below. If you're Jack Dorsey or Adam Back, if you want to send Ben or myself money, we're available on Twitter.
I'll have money too.
Victoria too, she'd also like some money. She wrote a book. We could send Victoria a grant, as they said in the great Batman movie. Give Knox a grant. Give Knox a grant, says Bruce Wayne. I wish they'd brought him back in the other films as a great character of Knox. But thanks again to everybody for joining us. We're out of time. Until next time, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.